Before I start my story, I feel like it's important to let everyone know that I've always been horrible at dating. I started super late and I've always just been awkward around women, so it was something that I just put off until my second year in college. I had been single since high school and decided to give dating another try. The easiest way for me to land dates was dating apps, and due to me not wanting to put in any money or too much time, I decided to go with apps that were more loosely based, which is why I ended up on Tinder. Now, I'm not saying Tinder is the worst app, but nobody is looking for long-term relationships on Tinder. It's all mostly guys looking for random hookups, and girls who want attention, but that's unrelated. Anyways, I got on Tinder and had some of the worst luck ever. I rarely got matches, and when I did, it was some girl promoting her content, which was very annoying. I was considering deleting my account when I got a notification that I had been super liked. For those who aren't familiar with Tinder, you swipe on random people, and if they swipe back on you, you are a match and are allowed to chat. Being super swiped is a good thing because it lets you know straight away that someone swiped you, so you don't have to waste time wondering. I instantly found the person who swiped on me, and she was honestly very pretty but not overly gorgeous and fake looking. That's usually how I decided if someone was a catfish or not. Anyways, I swiped on her and she messaged me first. We ended up talking for almost a week. I found out her name was Anna and she seemed like a normal girl. I surprised myself when I decided to ask her out. And I was even more surprised when she said yes. I asked her where she wanted to go and she mentioned an Italian restaurant that I had been to before. It was kinda low priced and nothing too fancy, so this was great to me. We arrived at the restaurant and honestly, everything went great at first. We talked, ate, laughed, flirted, and just did everything you would do on a first date. But I will admit there were a few red flags. Red flag number 1 was the way she would go about the conversation. Sometimes she would seem fake, in my opinion. Like she would just agree with me or say she's interested in something I mentioned, but when I asked her about it she would know nothing about it. I didn't find this too bad, just figured she also wanted to make a good impression. As we got later into the date, she started checking her phone a lot. It was our first date, so I wasn't gonna say anything, but it was kinda also a red flag, especially since she got weird when I started checking mine. I looked at my phone a few times to check the time and so on, and I remember her asking me if anyone else knew about our date. I told her my friend did, although it was untrue and she seemed a bit uneasy. She asked me if I showed them any pics of her and I told her no. She kept excusing it as her just being private when it comes to dating, which I could somewhat understand, but it just seemed off to me. After the date ended, we were walking back to our cars when she told me she knew of a nice trail that was behind the restaurant that led to a lake. Now, I knew of the trail since the restaurant was near a park, but never knew of any lake being there. She insisted that there was a lake and pretty much begged me to go with her, saying it would be a great end to our date. I ultimately agreed and was about to turn around to follow her, but she stopped me and insisted that we leave our phones in our cars first. This was the biggest red flag. It was late, about 7, and we would be walking a trail for who knows how long. It made no sense for us to not bring our phones. She kept saying the service gets bad, which I knew was a lie. Like I said, I had been on the trail before. And even if that was the case, it still made no sense to me. She then said she just wanted one-on-one time and that she thinks the phones will be a distraction. But I still felt like this wasn't a great excuse, especially since we could just turn our phones off and focus on each other. After a few minutes of going back and forth, I agreed to put it away. I went to my car, and instead of putting it away, I just turned it completely off and put it in my pants in a way that she couldn't see it. After that, we went to the trail. She said that the lake was no more than 5 minutes away, so we started walking. As we were walking, she got very quiet, which was strange for me. The whole date she had been talkative and expressive, and now all of a sudden she was walking ahead of me, not saying a word. As we were walking, I noticed that way up ahead there was something in the bushes. I stopped and looked out at it for a few minutes and noticed that it was a guy. Then I noticed another guy not too far away from him. I walked up to my date and grabbed her hand and stopped her. I looked her in the eyes and told her I was tired and that we should get back because it was getting pretty late. She told me no, and that we were so close. I then tried to gesture at the guys since we were only a couple of yards away from them, but she just completely ignored my gesture. I then whispered to her as quietly as possible that there were guys up ahead and they would likely try to rob or hurt us, so we needed to leave. Her face went red and she seemed upset. I was expecting her to want to get out of there as quickly as possible, but instead, she grabbed my hand and started to try to pull me in their direction while saying we will be fine. I stopped her and let her know we needed to go and she looked furious. I then noticed one of the guys getting closer, so I immediately pulled out my phone and screamed, "If you come any closer, I'm calling the cops." Everybody froze, even Anna. I grabbed her hand, but before I could lead her away she instantly pulled away from me. She had this super angry look in her eyes. I didn't know what to say, and was completely confused. That's when I heard her murmur, "This never happened," before she continued walking up the trail. At this point, I pretty much knew what had happened and just walked back until I made it to my car. I know this really isn't your average horror story about ghosts and goblins, but honestly, it was the scariest moment of my life. Of course, when I got back into a safe spot and went to Anna's Tinder profile, she blocked me. I still reported the account to Tinder, although I'm pretty much certain nothing came from it since I had no proof of anything. The one thing I hate about the whole situation is that Anna wasn't even from where I'm from, so it's very likely this will continue to happen. The fact that she knew about the trail shows that she and whoever else she works with do their research, and aren't rookies. It pains me to know that there likely have been other boys who went through this and weren't so lucky, and that there will likely be more. To all the young men and women out there, be safe, and always follow your gut. Who knows what would have happened if I had listened to Anna and not brought my phone.
In high school, which was a year ago for me, I had this guy friend who was very awkward around women. He just was super sheltered growing up and never really got to date and be around women he liked. The only reason we were good friends was because we were neighbors, so he was way more used to me. There was a point in our relationship when I realized he was super depressed. All he talked about was how he was so ugly and felt like no girl liked him. I tried to help him as best as I could, but there was only so much that I could do. Once when I had his phone, I saw that he had Tinder installed, which was shocking. I checked his account and saw that he had pretty much no matches or anything. I know this sounds crazy, but I decided to pretty much catfish him just because I thought it would make him a lot less depressed. I used a picture of one of my cousins and matched it with him on Tinder. Since we were friends, I pretty much knew everything he liked and was able to build a connection with him quickly. Every day after school, we would text for hours. After a while, he was a million times happier and just seemed so much better. I felt like what I was doing was wrong, but at the same time, it was helping him, so I continued to do it. About 2 or 3 months down the line, he texted me telling me that he trusted me and wanted to tell me something. I didn't think anything of it, but what he told me was truly sick. I can't go into too much detail, but I learned that he loved harming animals, especially cats. He went into detail about how he would throw them into lakes or take them home to his dogs, and so on. Like I said, I can't go into too much detail, it's absolutely disturbing, but what hurt me was his later confession. He admitted to killing my cat Ginger. The week that we met, my cat Ginger went missing and was never found. He was there for me and comforted me, which is one of the reasons I liked him and decided to stay friends with him. I would have never guessed that he was in any way responsible for it at all. Like I said, I'm not going to go into any detail, but what he did to her was brutal. After that conversation, as you can guess, I got very distant both in real life and on my Tinder account. I just didn't know what to do, and I was heartbroken. A few days later, he texted me on the Tinder account scolding me for ignoring him. I pretty much confronted him about everything. I didn't come out as myself yet, but I let him know that what he was doing was messed up and that I would report him if he didn't stop. I was expecting some form of sympathy from him, but I got nothing. He sent back a bunch of laughing emojis and just said okay. I left him unopened because honestly I was shocked by his lack of empathy, and he sent a message saying, "You know, the only thing that would be better than harming a cat is harming a person." I didn't say anything and just ignored it, hoping that he would get the hint, but that's when he sent me something that blew me away. It was a video of him outside of my cousin's house. I had never given him any information about me or her, and she lived almost 3 hours away. He sent back a winking emoji after and said, "Now let's ignore any of this happen," and blew me a kiss. I only got to see the message for a minute or two before he blocked me. I stopped being friends with him after this happened, but recently he reached out to me. I'm honestly completely terrified of him and don't know what to do. It's not only the fact that he killed my cat and many others, but it's the overall fact of how manipulative he has been. How he is hidden in plain sight, and I was completely unaware. Just goes to show that even your best friends can have the biggest skeletons in their closets.